How you doing, guys, and welcome to my channel. Now, if it's your first time here, please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. As you can see today, I'm taking a look at the Hot Toys Star Wars Darth Maul 2.0 from the Phantom Menace. Just having a quick look at the box here, you can see we have an image of the figure on the front of the box. A really nice looking figure, really nice pose there on the front of the box, and we have the head sculpt there on the main picture, and then on the banner we have the second head sculpt there on show, and then at the side you can see we have another image of Darth Maul. And then just moving around to the back, you can see we have some warnings and our usual information about Hot Toys. And then on the other sides we have the rest of the banner. Nothing too fancy there, but the front of the box looks really nice. And then on the inside of the box, if you take the cover off, I'll just take the cover off now. And there we have the cardboard insert. Really nice image. The figure itself again on the Sith Speeder, really nice image. And you can see there we have also in the background we have an image of the second head sculpt. So pretty much everything there on that cardboard insert, really nice image. So without further ado, in my usual fashion, what I'll do is we'll have a little scan of the figure, how I pose him, and then we'll move on to all of the accessories. And here we have him on his Sith Speeder, or jumping off his Sith Speeder, as how I pose him basically. It is kind of copying the box art, the way it is in the box, but I really like that pose, and I can utilize, you know, everything that he comes with if I pose him this way basically. Quick look at the base there. It's an awkward kind of shape to the base, but it's not the end of the world. We have his droid there, and I have just noticed that I did put his droid backwards. He's supposed to be facing the other way. You can see I have the open mouth sculpt on him as well, because I don't have too many figures with open mouths, and those that I do have don't look as well as this. I have the lightsaber all lit up there, and just moving around to the back, you can see the lights of the back of the speeder are lit up, and the lights on the cluster, the instrument cluster, are all lit up there as well with USB. I really like this pose because, like I said, it utilizes pretty much everything that he comes with, or most of the things that he comes with the exception of a couple of little accessories. I love that head sculpt. It looks absolutely fantastic. He looks really menacing. It looks like a really menacing head sculpt. So there you go. That's pretty much how I pose him. It is like the box art, but you know, in my opinion, it looks really well. It looks great. You can see the wire there where it's plugged in. It could be in a better place than where it is. It's really obvious on the shelf, unfortunately. But there you go. So moving on to the accessories. Here we have all of the accessories that come with them. Well, not all of the accessories. Obviously the base and the speeder aren't there. We'll take a look at those in a bit more detail at the end of this. But just having a look at these accessories for now. Starting from top to bottom, we'll have a look at his hooded cloak. Is this an accessory or just part of his outfit? I don't know. I suppose it depends on how you're going to be displaying him. You know, if you're going to be displaying him on the speeder, you're going to definitely need this cloak on him, you know, to replicate that scene where he jumps off and goes into battle with Qui-Gon Jinn. So you are going to need that cloak if you want to replicate that, you know, that scene. Just have a look at it there, and you can see that it does have some really nice material. There's a bit of weight to it as well. Actually, it's quite heavy. It's all wired all the way down. All down here is wired. You can see all these details of all these ribs in the front of it, just like it was in the movie. And like I said, all wired. All down here is all wired. and you have these bits here. You know, his arm obviously comes out of the hole there, and they hang down behind him, and they are wired, flimsy wire, very very thin wired for this part here, but it is wired all the way down. And the same with the hood, the wires on the hood all the way around it here, so you can, you know, shape it and mold it to his head. But unfortunately we don't have a wire running down the middle here. It's not the end of the world. You can kind of, you know, shape it with the wire that's in it. So again, we'll have a look at that a bit later on when I have it on him. But it does sit on his head convincingly enough. And then at the back there, we have the rest of the hood. You know, it's quite a big hood there. Exactly movie accurate where it folds down, and you can see there where it's stitched onto the back there to stop it from, you know, moving about or moving out of position. And then we have the rest of this kind of ribbed or pleated material, and you can see it does all come apart. It does stretch out, so it doesn't really, you know, there's no issues with it constricting the figure. It does form to his body because it does, you know, open out. We have his droid that he comes with. Very very nicely done. This has been done before, if I'm not mistaken, on the DX 16 and 17, DX 16, 17 I think it was. Somebody can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Details, you can see at the back of it here, all the wiring, and it's quite delicate, those wires are, you know. There is some nice detail to it, and some more wires here. Moving around to the sides, you can see the detail in there of these little bits of metal that are protruding from it. And then at the front, you can see he has his purplish kind of eyepiece. What these look like is some more lenses also that come on it, and you can see the wires at the front there as well. And there is a bit of weathering on it there. You can see it just around the edges all here. There is like kind of like a dry brush put on it there to make it look a bit weathered, movie accurate as far as I can remember. And then we have this aerial here that just sticks in here and adds a bit more detail to it. Looks really nice, completes the look of it. And he goes on a flight pole on the base of him just here, and he has this base here that just goes in the end, and then he stands up, as you can see there. Not as high off the ground as I would have liked him to be, but it is a bit heavy for such a small little flight pole, you know, that it's, you know, any longer a flight pole, I think it'd be toppling over. But a nice little feature to have, a nice little detail to have. I'm not sure the camera's picking up on that, but there is some dry brushing and kind of scratching effect on the sides of it there to make it look like it, you know, it has been flying around Tatooine, and on the top there as well. His hilts, will start off with this wired one first of all. You can see it splits in half, sorry, the unwired one. And if I just grab the accessory that I have actually left out, it's still in the box, just bear with me a second. Where is it? There we go. This little piece here, when you split it in half, and it just pops on the end there to make it look like it has been cut in half or severed and broken in half. So you just pop that in, and there you go. So we have the bladed part there. We'll have a look at those again in a moment or two, but there you have it for the hilt that is unwired, that splits in two, that isn't wired. And then we have the complete double bladed hilt with the wire on it coming out the middle. Bit of an odd place to have it straight, you know, coming straight out the middle, but it's not the end of the world. It can be hidden. We'll have a look at it a bit later on with it switched on, but it does join onto this junction box here. Anybody who has a Star Wars figure knows exactly how to put all this together. It just pops in. Is that the right way? I always get these wrong. There we go. It pops into the junction box and then a USB on the bottom. And again, we'll take a look at that a bit later on. And then we have his single hilts wired for power as well. And you can see we have the severed bit at the bottom of it. Oh, that's his hilts. There is, you know, a few options there. We'll have a look at his binoculars that he uses when he's searching for Anakin or Qui-Gon Jinn or whoever he's looking for. I can't quite remember who he's gone down there looking for. He's following Qui-Gon. Very, very well detailed. I'm just going to use this as a pointer. You can see all the dirt and grime bit into it there. You know, it looks really, really used many, many times. You know, it looks really, all the paintwork all here is all kind of weathered. Here you can see the mock screw holes and all the weathering through it there, and even on the tip of the lens there you can see there is a bit of weathering and that on it. It's such a well detailed, and you can see the translucent glass on the front or plastic on the front, and even on the part that he puts his eyes into you can see that there is a clear translucent kind of plastic that's been put on as well. Like, that is really, really detailed. All the dials on it here, a really nice accessory. Unfortunately, I won't be using it. Have his alternate gauntlet that he uses. This is the gauntlet he has on him when he is on Tatooine, when he's on the speeder, and when he's using the binoculars. You can see he has this gauntlet on. And you can see that that's a plastic, it's not metal, it's quite shiny, as you can see. It does have these little studs in it here, the detail, and then all these slightly smaller studs all around it there. Really nicely done. It looks like a piece of metal, but it's not, it's plastic. And just looking at the mold there as well, you can see it looks like kind of folded leather. I'll put that on him again a bit later on. Quickly have a look at the two head sculpts. Have a closer look at them a bit later on. As you can see there, they are quite two different head sculpts, two very different expressions. Stoic, kind of serious look to them there, and we have the really aggressive open mouth expression. Two very, very, very different expressions. I am more inclined to use the open mouth one, only because I don't have too many. I have this special edition coin that comes with it. As you can see, it is gold. So this is the sideshow one. I do believe the Asian market one is a red coin, if I'm not mistaken. The sideshow one, the American one, has a gold one. It is die cast. It's made out of a die cast. Well, not something else I won't be displaying because there's no way of displaying it really. The sideshow missed an opportunity there to just put in a little, or Hot Toys missed an opportunity there to put it, you know, a little display stand there for them. The swooshing effect lightsaber blades, again, anybody with a Star Wars figure knows that it comes with pretty much all of the Star Wars figures. A thicker red going into a kind of a lighter red at the ends of it. Then finally, we have the speeder and the base to look at, but we do have his hands here. We have two relaxed palms that come on him out of the box. Then we have two kind of force gesturing hands that he has. And then we have open palm gesturing hands. Two gripping hands for the lightsabers. We have a closed fist left hand. And we have a hand that's specific for holding on to the binoculars. Again, quite an array of hands, quite a lot of detail to them. They're really well done. And I think that you'd probably use this one for the other side of the... Yeah, you'd probably use this one. They're quite pliable hands. You can see how pliable they are. Yeah, you'd probably use that one. And there you have him, you know, how he'd hold the binoculars. If you want to pose him in that way, I don't see why you would. You'd be covering his face if he was holding them to his face. And the mold on the gloves, if I just get a bit closer, there is a nice texture to them. There's a bit of rippling, like it's a folded leather. It's really, really, really nice. And they're all kind of the same. They all have this folded, you know, ripple effect on them, like they are a creased leather. They're done really well. Moving on, that's all of those accessories there. So moving on, we'll have a look at his Sith Speeder and the base. Here we have the Speeder and the base. You can see on the bottom there, it says, can you see there? Yep. It says Star Wars Darth Maul on the nameplate, and then we have the sound effect here that is removable, and there's a base on a display option on the bottom there underneath the sand. We'll take a look at that in a few moments. I have the flight pole attached at the back for Darth Maul, as if, you know, the way I pose him, as if he's jumping off the speeder. And then we have the speeder itself. As you can see, it's not the most stable. I don't know if anybody else has this issue with it, but it's a little bit kind of wobbly. It's not the most stable. It holds, but it could have been a bit more solid. Panel off here, you can see where I have the on and off switch. The old version of it used to have the batteries here. It wasn't USB on the DX1617, but it is USB now. And we have the on-off button just there. If I can just get this back on without giving me any hassle. There we go. B port, unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier on, it's on the bottom here, and it just could have been put in a better place. You know, plugged in on display, it's so obvious. We'll just plug it in there and have a look at it with the lights on. The backlights here, as we looked at earlier on, and you can see the display board, or the cluster, the instrument cluster, is all lit up as well. Not the most fantastic USB function, but it is effective on the shelf, I suppose. And then I'll just take it off here and we'll get a little bit closer to it. And here we have the speeder itself. Quite well detailed now, as you can see. There is quite a lot of detail just up in this area here, just working from the back to the front. You can see, hopefully it picks up on camera, that you can see it does have some weathering and some effects of kind of like a sandy color, like he's been speeding through the desert of Tatooine. And there is quite a lot of detail in it. You know, the sand all kind of bit into it. There is a little bit of weathering on the edges of it there. You know, some you know, paint chips. And there is some weathering all around here and around the back. Again, in uniform, quite well detailed and quite a bit of weathering on it. All around here, and yeah, it looks really, really nice. You can see at the side there the bit of weathering and all the sand kind of bit into it there as well. And then moving up to the cushions look really nice. They are really, the seat just looks really well. This is all plastic, but it does look like a kind of a leathery cushion. It really does. It does the job. It really does look nice. It looks like cushion. It's molded really well. It's got this stress effect to it, you know, it's all the sides. Really nice. and then there is kind of a dark brown wash put into it there to, you know, to highlight all of the details, which show off the details a little bit more, which is really fantastic. And of course these handlebars do move up and down, as you can see, and back up again, depending on how you really want to pose them, or where you know, how you have them situated on the speeder. And you can see there is more weathered effect on the front there, which looks really on point and really nice. The pedals themselves don't move, they are in a fixed position. It's not the end of the world. They do move in the movie as far as I know, but it's not the end of the world. And I'll put them on the speeder a little later on, and we'll take a look at them on the speeder. Just having a look at more weathering all around the front there. And all up here there's also more weathering, which looks really nice. And even on the bottom, they've kind of weathered the bottom, which wasn't entirely necessary, but you can see there is some weathering all on the bottom of it, just to make it look like it's been driven and used, and, you know, used quite a bit. There is some grime on it, and yeah, it looks really, really, really well. A really nice addition to have. Just looking at the sides there, you can see all the details. So much detail in it. There's no detail left out as far as I can tell. And even all up here, there's some weathering and some wash put into this area here. And yeah, it looks really nice. So there we have it for the speeder. And all up the sides there, you can see there is a wash and kind of dry brush and all put into it there, just to make it look weathered. I can't get over those seats. They look really nice to be plastic and look that well. You know, it's fair play to Hot Toys for you know, putting that much detail into it. So let me just pop this aside for a moment. Yes, it will. And then we have the base. Let's flight pole off. Come on. And there we go. On the base, if I can get this out, there we go. This part is removable. The sand part is removable if you don't want to display them on the speeder or in Tatooine. We have this section here. They're really, really shiny. It's got kind of a metal effect to it, even though it is shiny, and I don't think it's picking up on the camera there, but there is all a brushing effect going off in that direction. Have, you know, this kind of brushed effect on it. As you can see my face in it there, it is quite shiny. And yeah, that's if you want to kind of display him standing on his own or battling with Qui-Gon. It's the floor of that ship that they're battling, you know, where him, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi are battling with each other. I'll just put all that back on there, just get it all back together. Easily done. And pop this onto here. And there we go. There all is set back up again. So moving on, I'll actually show you what he looks like, I suppose, sitting on the speeder, and the couple of gripes that I have. We have him sitting on the speeder. Too bad, it looks okay. Like I said, there are a couple of gripes that I do have with it, which is that the base, without the flight pole on it, without it, you know, it just kind of wobbles about a little bit. If you want his feet touching the pedals, if you want to bring his feet, which they barely do, but the pedals could have done with being a little bit shorter to bring his feet, because you can only just about get the tips of his feet, you know, his toe area, to touch the you can't get them flat. You can't get his feet flat onto the pedals. And also, if you do want his feet touching the pedals, isn't actually against, you know, it's not flush against the seat. It's back flush against the seat and looking a bit more natural and comfortable sitting in it. See, you lose the ability to feet touching the pedals, essentially. So Hot Toys could have made the pedal bar just a little bit shorter so he could fit into the seat and have his feet on the pedals. Not the end of the world. Displaying him like that, I won't be doing, but if I was displaying him like that, oh, and I will mention that the weight of him on it does kind of throw it off or make it a little bit wobbly. Displaying it like this, as I said, but it is plausible to display him like that. Put him sitting forward, sitting facing forward like that. If you put him to the side, you can see that there is a gap there. Can't really make him look like he's in motion. As I said earlier on, these are wired, but the wires are so weakened that you can't actually bend them back to make them look like he's in motion, flowing back. There's no way of making it look like he's actually moving. So yeah, those wires could have been a little bit thicker running down those sleeves. They just hang. You can see they just kind of hang down there, which is a little bit of a nuisance. I would have liked to have been able to bend those back just to make it look like he's actually in motion on the speeder and that they're blowing back. But not the end of the world. It is an option if you want to display him like that. It's just not the option that I'd be going for. But there you have him sitting on the speeder. Here we have him standing independently of the speeder. And just a couple of gripes that I have. First of all, the hole for the speeder is smack bang there in the middle. I'm not sure if you can see it. But also, he doesn't come with just a crotch grabber. He could have really come with a crotch grabber or a shorter pole for just posing him without the speeder. He only comes with the flight pole, which comes up kind of just to his shoulder. And at certain angles, if you're looking at him from above, looking down at him, you can see that flight pole. The camera's looking at him dead straight on, but if you're looking, down at him, you can see that flight pole sticking out at his shoulder, which isn't great. They could have just put in a crotch grabber there or something. And holding the two lightsabers in his hand, only one single lightsaber, not the double one. Only kind of this single lightsaber lights up. So if you want to display him with the two halves, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna look good with just only one of them lit up and the other one not lit up. So it's a little bit of an issue. Not the end of the world, but it is worth noting. It is a factor. It still looks well without the lit up lightsabers, on his own without the speeder. But I am going to be posing with the lightsaber lit up. I'm going to be posing with the double bladed saber. See if I can get that to focus a bit better. So yeah, it still looks really well like that, even without them lit up. But he still looks really, really well. And as you can see there, that looks nice, and he has a bit of side eye going on that sculpt as well, which adds a whole different dimension to the head sculpt. And here we have our Darth Maul pretty much straight up as he comes out of the box, no accessories attached to him, and immediately, just straight off the bat, guys, the proportions are absolutely fantastic. One of the best I've ever seen. Just for the proportions of the body, it looks just like Darth Maul or Ray Park in the movie. Yeah, the outfit, spot on, looks exactly like it did in the movie. You can see if I just pull these bits down here, you can just see it looks, it tightens up even more and forms to the body a little bit better as I pull these pieces down, as I foots with it. It's pretty awesome. That looks amazing. You can see there that I do have the stoic kind of serious head sculpt on him. That is the head sculpt on him that he comes, that he has when he comes out of the box. But in my usual fashion, I'll start off from bottom to top and we'll have a look at his boots. There we go, they're focused. So yeah, just looking at the boots, you can see they are completely movie accurate. It has all the straps in all the right places. If I can get it to focus, there we go. And they are a split boot, believe it or not. They are actually a split boot. I don't know if you can see there, but just you can see where the boot is split just there, just to get a little bit of articulation. Not a massive amount, but there is a little bit of articulation there. But you can see where it is split there, and you can get a small little bit of articulation out of it if you so choose. So it isn't one piece, although I did think when I took it out of the box that it was one piece. I did think it was one mold, but it's not. But you can see there where it, you know, where it is split, and it's done really well. Where it's how it's split, it's done really well. It's, you know, it's nice to have the split boot to get a bit of articulation, although it is extremely limited. Just taking a look at the front there, you can see the toe area. It has some weathering on this strap here. It's like kind of a sandy color on it, and it is all weathered and looks really nice. The rest of the boot isn't really weathered. Maybe a couple of little bits at the edge here and just here are weathered, but not a whole heap of weathering. Just a couple of little spots here and there. You can see the straps all the way around at the back where it looks like it's you know, got a relief to it, so it looks like it's all buckled up. And then on the back there you can see more of that kind of a sandy effect washed into the back of the boot there, where it's supposed to be. And some more detail, the fine details and the creases in it just here, just to make it look like, you know, a creased kind of leather effect to it. And then on the sole we have again that kind of sandy wash effect kind of put into the sole there, and you can see it says Lucasfilm and Hot Toys written on the soles of the feet. And then we have these kind of V shapes here that is completely movie accurate. On this little patch here there is a little bit of speckling. It's kind of speckled, you know, just to make it look a little bit weathered. There is a little bit of speckling. I'm not sure if the camera is picking that up, just on these parts here, just to make it look a little bit weathered, so it looks really nice. And then moving up, we'll have a look at his trousers that he's wearing, or his undergarment that he's wearing. They're very light material, very, very light kind of material, very thin. You can see the way they fold over the top of the boots, which if my memory serves me correct, it is movie accurate. I'd have to double check again, but it does look nice the way they just kind of fold over the top of the boot. Pretty sure that is accurate. It is, as I said, it is quite a thin material. Is there a fat suit? Is there a padding? It feels like there's a tiny little bit of padding, a really thin padding on the legs there. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there is a small little bit of padding. Feels like a really, really thin padding, but it is padded nonetheless, just to bulk him out just a little bit in the leg area. And then as we move up, these are all separate pieces. You can see there is this kind of robe on the very underneath on the bottom, and then we have connected down here from the top all the way down are these other separate pieces. So he is multi-layered. There are a good few layers to him, and you might be able to see there, guys, that every single one of these pieces are wired. All of the pieces, all of them there are all wired separately, so you can get some really nice dynamic poses out of them. And even on the ends, no, the ends of these ones aren't. But the end of this piece here is wired as well, so you can get a nice, you know, shape to it. You can get some really nice posing out of them because of the amount of wires that are all running up every single piece, which is a nice feature. And even on the back, this part here on the under part is second layer in, I suppose, is wired also. There's a wire running along here, and there's a wire also running along here, which is again a nice feature just for the dynamic posing. And then this piece here also, his outer layer, is the bottom of it here is all wired. And are the sides wired? Yeah, the sides are wired as well. So yeah, there's a lot of wires running through this guy. So there's wires running all the way through it. Yeah, so much dynamic posing. you can really have a unique looking figure on your shelf with all those wires in it. Nobody's gonna pose it, or you know, pose those pieces the exact same. Moving up to his belt, you can see it is movie accurate. It does have that. I did think initially that it was riding a bit high, but I don't think it is. I think that is right. It is that high, and as far as I can tell, guys, the feel of it, the smell of it, it feels like real leather. It really feels like soft, genuine leather, which is fantastic. From Hot Toys to make this, you know, out of real leather, so it's not going to, you know, shred. It's not gonna peel. Now, I have been wrong in the past, but I'm 99.9% sure that is real leather. But I will mention that he is an absolute dust magnet with the black, all over him. He is an absolute dust magnet. What it is. Moving up to the hands, we did have a look at the hands and the accessories, but we will have a look at the gauntlets. They are a plastic mold, you know, and they cover up the joints really nicely. There is no, you know, there's no visible joints there. There is a bit of a seam. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be in, you know, it's supposed to be there, but I don't think they are. I think that's just a seam line. But it could be accurate. It could be, and you can see around the edges of them there where there is stitching. You know, it looks like a kind of a stitching on them. And there is some texture to them. They do look like, you know, leathery. They kind of look like a leather effect to them. You know, they really look leatherish. Yeah, it's really nicely done. And moving up his arms, you can see there is a stitch running along here that separates these two kind of materials, the different designs in the sleeve. You can see there's some stitching, you know, running down this part here, and it's joined up there, and then we have some pleats up the rest of the sleeve that again look really nice. You can see it a bit clearer on this one, the separation there in the two, you know, parts of the sleeve. And then the pleats. The pleat isn't as defined on that side. I'm not sure if that's because of how he was sitting in the box. But moving up to his chest area, again, oh, my battery died. My apologies. Where was I? I was just moving up to his chest area. And again, you can see this kind of robe coming around the back of his neck and down to the front. And it's all pleated up just like it is in the movie. This robe that goes over that, I'm not sure if you can see that on camera, but it is textured. It's got a bit of texture to it. It's very different to the material, you know, what's here. It's two very different materials, and again, it's movie accurate. It is textured, and it does have the pleats in it, as you can see there. And then underneath that, there is his bottom layer, his undergarment. I don't feel any padding there. There doesn't seem to be a fat suit on the top half of him, just a very thin one on the bottom of it. I'm pretty sure that is, but doesn't feel like there's any padding on the top half of him at all, which is nice. I'm not a fan of fat suits. They restrict, you know, articulation, so I'm quite happy that there isn't a fat suit. And it is actually a body that's filling everything out. And if I just get a little bit lower there, you can see where it comes up into his neck and this very intricate stitching there. And we'll have a look at the paint on the neck there, on the neck peg, if I can get it to focus. And you can see the paint on the neck is exactly the same as the rest of the paint on the face. There is a bit of creasing on the neck, and there you can see there is an Adam's apple there as well. Just that nice little attention to detail there, you know, having the colors the same, exactly the same. You know, some figures you get the neck is a different color, so it's nice to see that they've got the paints exactly the same color as the neck and the head sculpt. So let's get it a bit more focused in, and we'll have a look at the head sculpt. We have the head sculpt that comes with him out of the box, and I have to say it is absolutely fantastic. I don't have any other Darth Mauls. This is my first Darth Maul. I've only last year started collecting, or was it the year before, late 23 I think, maybe I started collecting Star Wars. But as far as I can tell, looking at images, this is by far the most superior Darth Maul figure in 1/6 scale. The paint applications are spot on. The color application, you know, the red in it is really nice. Just having a look at the side profile, it looks like Ray Park as Darth Maul. You can see the seam line there, which I'm not entirely pleased with. I think Hot Toys could have made a bit more of an effort to get rid of that seam line. It's not as prominent on the left hand side of them, but on the right hand side it's fairly prominent seam line, and it just takes away from the illusion. You know, they could have sorted that out. But the texture in the skin, I'm sure you can see that on camera, even though there is paint on it, or supposed to be face paint on it, but you can see the texture of where, you know, there would be like a 5 o'clock shadow on Ray Park. I wouldn't say stubble, it's not stubble, but it's like, you know, it is rough and textured, just like, you know, like a male face would be. You know, he was clean shaven, but there would be a bit of stubble there, you know, on a male face. And the details in and around the horns, you know, the relief in it is really nice. And just having a look at the top of his head, you can see the detail as well. You know, his head is all textured, and you know, on the top and at the back you can see the details there. You can see the texture on the skin, the pores. There is obviously a seam line there where the head, you know, pops on, which it's not the end of the world. It's easily covered with his robe. You know, you can't see it now, as you can see there. And you can see the horns there are quite pointy, they're quite sharp, but you know, that is supposed to be bone, so it would be accurate if you ask me. Or, you know, because they are bone, so they are supposed to be sharp, pointy and hard, so they look really well. You can see the paints where it's a bit darker down the bottom, and then it comes up into this kind of bone color, which is pretty spot on. I'm having trouble getting it to focus. There we go. That's a bit better. Yeah, and there is some lines in the bone, you know, to make it look like bone, and all the texture, even, come on, focus, there we go. They've even managed to get the earring there, as you can see. They didn't forget to put the earring in his ear, which is really nice, of, you know, completely movie accurate. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing head sculpt, guys. Looking at those Sith eyes, they look fantastic, they look accurate. That is 100% Ray Park as Darth Maul. It looks real, it looks really real, it looks absolutely fantastic. It's amazing, I can't get over it. Okay, there is those couple of seam lines there. On the bones, you can see the details where the prosthetic is stuck onto his head, and then they've kind of, you know, painted over it. You know, it's supposed to be face paint, but and you can see the red under it as well, where he was all, you know, basically painted red first and then the black over it. And quite a contrasting head sculpt compared to the next one, you know. So what I'll do now is I'll pop the other head sculpt on, and we'll have a look at that head sculpt as well. Point out as well, guys, I'm not sure if anybody else has had this issue, but just on this head sculpt here, you can't really see it in there, can you? There we go. That black piece that's supposed to be slotted in for the head sculpt to clip onto the peg, it's supposed to be stuck in the sculpt onto this peg here, you know. It's supposed to just clip into this part here. Unfortunately, with my second head sculpt, the expressive head sculpt, it came out when I popped the head sculpt on. When I pulled it off, the black piece stayed on the peg. I'm not sure if anybody else has had that issue, but it has come unglued, and I'm gonna have to re-glue it. You can just see where the glue is supposed to be at the back of it there, so I'm gonna have to put some super glue on it. Here we have the second head sculpt, the open mouth head sculpt, the really expressive one. And this is the head sculpt I'll be using, or I am using, because it's just a way more expressive head sculpt. I don't have too many figures with their mouth open, and any that I do have just don't look as good as this. They're not as accurate to the person they're supposed to be with the mouths open. You know, they're older figures. But we'll start off with the biggest difference in the sculpts is the mouth open, and you can see he has this, you can see the tongue in there. It's not too red, it's painted just the right color that it should be. And then he has his yellow teeth and all of that filth and plaque, I suppose, that's all over his teeth. It looks absolutely spot on, looks movie accurate. Darth Maul's teeth were filthy, there was black all over them, and they are painted exceptionally well to show that detail, you know. You can see with this expression there is some kind of mild kind of creasing under the eyes there and in the nose area, and you know, because his nose is scrunched up a bit because the mouth is open, and you can see that definition and the creasing just under the eye there at the crease, because he's making that expression. Is like I said, his nose is scrunched up, and we have a more defined line amount around his mouth there, which again looks really well. Again, really realistic face sculpts. It looks fantastic, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the two head sculpts side by side, and we'll do kind of a side by side with the two of them and just compare the difference between the two. Here we have the two head sculpts side by side, just showing the difference between the two of them, and you can see they are two very, very different expressions, both equally, in my opinion, both equally as accurate to the actor Ray Park. You know, back then in the Phantom Menace, they are both really exceptional head sculpts, really well detailed, and it is tough to decide which one to display him with. Like I said, I think I am going to go for the open mouth one for the reasons I explained earlier, but it is a shame to leave that stoic head sculpt in the box. It really is. If I could maybe get a second body or something and use that head sculpt, I think I will. I think I'm going to try and hunt down another body, because that looks absolutely amazing. With, you know, both head sculpts just look, it's really tough to decide. It really is. I can understand why anybody would use either head sculpt. There's no one head sculpt that I could say is, you know, really better than the other. So there we are for the head sculpts anyway, guys. So moving on. Here we have him with his hooded cloak on, you know, no Sith Speeder, just on his own. Now, in my opinion, this is something that I would only put on him if I was displaying him on the Speeder, which I will be doing. But standing up on his own, it still looks really well with the full cloak on. It covers up a lot of the detail though of the rest of the outfit, but there you have it with it on. It doesn't look too bad. I just prefer it if I was standing him on his own without the Speeder. I'd have him without the cloak on. With the Speeder, obviously, to replicate the scene, you would need the robe on, but you know, I'll just straighten his head a little bit and we'll put the hood up on him, and we'll try and shape it a little bit. You can see it kind of sits, because there's no wire in the middle, running down the middle. It doesn't sit really well, so you kind of have to use the wire that runs around at the sides to push it all down to get it over his head and get it to kind of sit down a little bit on his, you know, try and get it down onto his forehead like it is in the movie. And you can kind of work it, you can foots it. It does need a bit of foots in there, guys. This is a bit of a crude effort, but because the wire runs along the top here, you can kind of fold it down and get it into the shape. Is, you know, if you foots it and work it, you will get it down, and it will do the job. I mean, that doesn't look too bad, you know, with a little bit of foots and, you know, a little bit more foots in there to get that tidied up. You would most certainly, you know, pull off the effects. That looks really well to me. That looks absolutely fantastic. I do like him with the hood up. That looks great. So there we have him with the cloak on without the speeder. What I'm going to do now is kind of show you how I feed the wire through the gauntlet and display him with the wired hilt, or lightsaber should I say. Here we have him here. Like I said, I'm going to feed this lightsaber through and kind of hide it as best I can. As you can see, I have the USB block sitting on the flight pole here. It could go onto the back of his belt as well. There is a hook for that, but I just take everything off here. Feed this through the gauntlet and make sure it's on the bottom of the gauntlet, just kind of hidden as best it can be. Like so. Put the hand over the wire. They are quite pliable, these hands, so you can kind of open them up and put them on. Like so, there we go. Feed it through and pop the hand back on. Wrap this kind of around here. And I always get these backwards. There we go. And just put it like that. Now you can kind of see the wire just a little bit here. You could probably futz with it a little bit more to get that hidden, but that's the, you know, the best way I find with any of those lightsabers, you know, is to run it up through the gauntlet, which most Star Wars figures are wearing gauntlets, or most of the ones I have anyway are wearing gauntlets. So let me plug it in there, and yes, there we go. We have light. Do we have light coming out of it? There we go. And just pop the blades on there. Let me get these. And kind of, there we go, yeah. So there we go for, you know, posing them with the wired lit up LED lightsaber. Obviously you can see the wire running from the USB on the display, but on the display cabinet it would be going down the back of the shelf and be hidden a little bit better. So there you have them displayed with the LED lightsaber and the wire hidden as best as it can be hidden, I suppose. Now if you had the, you know, if you had the cloak on them, you could feed it through the cloak and hide it even better, but that looks pretty decent. Here we have just another quick pose on the speeder, and I just want to hit the lights there and just show you, if I can reach these lights, what it looks like in low light with what the hilt looks like, or what the blade looks like in low light. Not the best in the world, probably the better Hot Toys ones. They are getting better, but I have seen worse Star Wars figures or worse, you know, lit up lightsabers. It's not too bad, but Hot Toys really do need to pull their socks up on those lightsabers and get them lit up a bit more movie accurate, you know. But there we have just kind of another pose from on the speeder. Again, you know, it looks quite well. It looks fairly decent. So there you have it, guys. There is the Darth Maul 2.0. A very long video, guys. I do apologize if anybody is worn out, but there you go. I'm gonna leave you with some images now. Please do hit that like and subscribe if you did like the video, and keep your eye out for more content. Thanks a lot. Take care.